Hello and welcome back. Here we are again. It's the Jackson and Shabazz show, baby. Abdullah, what's going on?
Man, what's up? This is the show. This is the place to be.
We got a good show for you guys today. We're really excited. We're going to try something new yet again. We're going to get some co-hosts on here. We've never tried this before. To be completely honest, starting this up was really fucking stressful. Trying to get everybody situated and everybody. Yeah, the only one that was trying to orchestrate it. But regardless, I think it's going to work out just fine. And if it doesn't, well, then we'll scrap it for next time. All right. So to start out, we are going to start talking about UFC 241. We have a special guest that we'd like to bring onto the show who is more of an expert on UFC topics than we certainly are. Absolutely. This is a chain-smoking, gun-toting, beard-sporting, badass outlaw Jackson, a.k.a. my father, Jody Jackson, joining us right now.
What's up, fellas? What's going on, man?
How's it going, Dad?
My man, how are you?
First of all, I'd like to say to you guys, congratulations on the show.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Dad.
Big things coming, boys.
I really appreciate the support. This actually means a lot to me. For a long time, Dad, we've actually been talking about the possibility of us doing a podcast together. We had spoken about the possibility of doing a sports podcast that is based off of comedy, which is exactly what me and Abdullah are trying to do here. The thing with you is that you don't give a shit about sports. So we thought
No, hold on. I don't give a shit about the sports you guys care about.
So here's where I always thought it would be such an interesting, way to go with a show is have a sports show with somebody who doesn't care, doesn't know, has no interest in sports. However, the only sport that you are interested in is mixed martial arts, UFC, and you are our quote-unquote expert on the matter. So we are really excited to talk to you about that. But before we start with that, I do have a funny story to share with you guys that happened to me just as before we were about to start the show. So, as I told you, it was pretty stressful for me trying to get this show underway, talking to all our guests who will be shown later, my dad included. So I was running around trying to figure out the technological issues that we were having. And so I got up stressed out. I closed out the Skype and I said, all right, I'm going to go eat dinner. I went into the living room, put on my fancy dancy Crocs. Yes, I wear Crocs, everybody. If you don't like it, I don't care.
Wonder where you got the Croc wearing from.
I got it from my dad, and if you have an issue, meet him in the street, okay?
In the alley, baby.
So I go, and I had just gotten home. I got home from work. I came in and tried to figure out everything with the Skype, and then I went out to the other room. So I had just gotten home from work, finished the Skype, go out into the living room, throw my Crocs on my feet, and as soon as I slide my left foot in the left Croc, I am met
in the right Croc
with the warm sensation of fresh dog piss. Oh, I was.
Oh, shit.
Hey, listen, when you lived at home, I used to piss in your shoes anyway, so.
With that being said, Dad, I'm going to let you take the floor here talking about maybe a little bit of the history of the UFC that you wanted to talk about. Then we'll segue right into what happened this past Saturday night at UFC 241.
I mean, the UFC, man, that came out before you guys were even born. I mean, it started in 1992. And it was a completely different sport than what you see now. It was absolutely nothing like it is now. The whole premise of the UFC was to find out which fighting style was the best. And basically there was 8 fighters, and it was 4 matches. And then the winners of those fights moved on to the next, which is the same night they had to fight. And then, down to 4, and then down to 2, and then down to 1. So you fought, if you were a winner or a loser, you fought 3 fights in one night. And there was no time limits. There was no rules. There was no nothing. And no weight classes. And it was incredible to watch. Oh, wow. I used to be a big boxing fan. Boxing was my thing. I loved it until the UFC came about. And then boxing to me, I mean, I still followed. I still love it a little bit, but it went way on the back burner compared to who it was. And even back then, you had a little guy like back in the day, Hoist Gracie was the man. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu was the thing. And you had a 180-pound guy coming out, beating up everybody.
Mm.
Everybody that stepped in the ring with him, he beat, and it wasn't your typical what you would think. You watch it, and you got this little guy coming out against this guy who's 150 pounds bigger than him, and he grabs the guy and pulls him to the ground, and he's on the bottom, and you think to yourself, "What the hell is this? This makes no sense. This is not how fighting happens."
Mm-hmm.
And back then, it wasn't what it is now. There was no mixed martial arts. It was one style. Each person had their own style, and the whole premise of it was to find out which style was the best. And back then, it was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And now it's morphed into what it is today. Now, once you can't have one discipline; you have to know everything that there is.
Yep.
Hence the mixed martial arts.
Yep.
So thank you for that brief history. So going forward, UFC 241, there was a couple pretty big fights on the card for their respective reasons. First off, I want to get your reaction and your opinion on the Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic fight for the heavyweight title.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and let me know how you felt about that fight and what are your feelings on the fighters.
Well, I mean, they're both great fighters. It was an interesting match. It went, I actually had Daniel ahead in the fight up until that fourth round. I thought they both did a great job in the stand-up game, and Daniel's not known for his stand-up game.
Right.
He's known for his wrestling.
Yep.
And I do think part of the problem is that he's been getting a little lucky with his hands, so he kind of abandoned his wrestling and decided he was going to slug it out with this guy who is a slugger. And but
a big one at that, a lot bigger than Cormier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
but you know what? Listen, that match, they were both landing shots. They both did a great job. And in the fourth round, Stipe he changed his style. What he started doing was hitting the body. He started working that body, and Daniel didn't like it at all. And that was the game changer right there.
Yeah,
that was definitely the game changer.
Interestingly enough, for me, when I had watched the fight afterwards, I didn't get a chance to see it live. But when I had watched the instant replays, on YouTube after, the beginning of the end for me really was how cocky Daniel Cormier was throughout the fight. For me, when he picked Stipe Miocic up onto his shoulder and carried him around for a couple seconds, kind of looking around like, look at me, I'm the baddest motherfucker in this place, and dropped him. And the drop was kind of lackluster. There was really no really impact on that drop there. And then shortly after, you see he's dropping his hands. He's wishing he would hit him. As he's walking towards him, he's dropping his hands. So for me, personally, I think Cormier was way too cocky, and I think it was to his demise.
Yeah.
Well, he took that picking the guy up and carrying him across the room and slamming him that was right straight out of the pages of Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes was famous for doing that. He would pick the guy up, carry him over his shoulder to his corner, and then throw the guy down. This way he can listen to what his corner was saying as he was grounding and pounding the guy. Daniel's a good fighter. I never liked his personality, especially when him and Jones were fighting. Mm-hmm. The two of them together, pure cockiness, pure attitude, and that's not what the sport's about. No. If you're going to do it, at least do it with style like the Diaz brothers do.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on that a little bit later. Abdullah, I do want to get some of your quick reactions first before I move on.
Again, same as you. I didn't watch it live. I wish I did. I like to say Daniel Cormier is the most in shape, out of shape fighter I have ever seen in my life. Now, I love the guy. I think he's good. He's 5'11". We're the same exact height, so shorter guy, but he's a pit bull. He's a bulldog. He roughs it out. But I think you hit it right on the head. You're a wrestler.
Looks like he bench presses kids' meals. That's for damn sure.
Well, he's been getting really his stand-up game has dramatically improved.
Yes.
And he started getting cocky with that and thought he was going to stand up there with a striker, and he did really well.
He did.
Up until he didn't do well anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, same thing. He's a cocky fighter. Also in that match, he had a lot of leg kicks that were very good. I mean, obviously he's a better leg kicker than Pettis, but Stipe. So it was just one of them fights, You were winning until you lost. Exactly how you said it. It's just what it is.
Okay, Outlaw Jackson, my question for you is Daniel Cormier done? And before you answer that, let me preface that with he's kind of had an up and down last couple fights. Now he's the UFC champion, was. But he did have that fight with John Jones where John Jones whooped his butt and
2 fights with John Jones.
Right,
Yeah.
and he got clowned on social media with that whole crying thing after.
Well, if you noticed, go ahead.
And he did listen, exactly like you said, it was a pretty even fight, but now he lost the belt. He's 40 years old, as Abdullah said, the most fat, out of shape person he's ever seen. Will he be able to come back from something like that?
Yeah, I think he will. I don't think he's done. He's an emotional guy. Like he's talking about the crying. I mean, up and downs. I mean, his only losses before this were to John Jones.
Yes.
It's a whole different level. John Jones is a whole different level. So let's
Yeah.
get that out of the way. And he cried. But if you watch the post-fight interview of this last fight, he was this close to crying again. This close. And he's an emotional guy. He takes that. He's a competitive guy. He takes that personally, and the emotions got the best of him. So when he said he's going to retire, I'm not sure about that. I think that he might be semi-retired until the money is thrown in his face, and then he'll come back again.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you there. Segueing a little bit to the other fight, my favorite fight on the card, because of a reason that my dad knows well, and all my friends, including Abdullah, know very well. Nate Diaz against Anthony Pettis. Nate Diaz has been my favorite fighter since I was a kid. Bringing it back to some of the first UFC fights that I had ever seen with my father. I believe the first one that I ever watched live was Nate Diaz's first fight after The Ultimate Fighter, where he put that guy in the triangle choke and flipped off the camera. As a 12, 13-year-old kid back then, that, for me, right in that moment, I said, that is my fighter. That's my favorite fighter.
Yeah.
And ever since then, because I was like, that's the most fucking badass thing I have ever seen. Like, I can't believe that just happened. It was on Spike TV, guys. It was on cable. When he threw up the middle fingers while the guy's tapping out, Spike didn't know what to do. They started shaking the camera. It was amazing. So I was extremely happy to see him come back with this fight for Anthony Pettis, and I'm going to get your analysis on the fight, but I just wanted to preface it with, I'm so glad that he's back. I'm so glad that he got the win, and I'm really excited for the future. So, Dad, take it away.
I mean, we'll see how much longer he's in the UFC. You know, him and Dana White, them guys go at it all the time. Dana has a big problem with the Diaz brothers, even though he likes the Diaz brothers because of their attractions. He doesn't like their attitude because they don't tiptoe around them. They tell him the way it is. And Nate Diaz, the first time I saw Nate Diaz was on the Ultimate Fighter show.
Yeah.
He competed in the Ultimate Fighter show, and when I first started liking him, then his brother, I love both of them. His brother was a fighter. Nick was a fighter long before, and his brother fought Carl Parisian. All right, as another fighter. Carl, who was a champion at one time, had a cousin who was on the same show. He came there as a guest, like a guest star popping in to give some advice. And he started talking trash to Nate about his brother, Nick.
Wow.
And Nate, who was keeping, during the show, he kept his composure the whole thing. He was like, man, I'll stomp you right now. I'll stomp you right now for talking about my brother. And instantly at that point, I was like, I hope this guy can back up the way he's talking. And you know, he became a shining star. I think he lived in his brother's shadow for a while.
To this day, he has his brother's back. They have each other's backs. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a force to reckon with. Those two together, it's crazy, man. I love their whole attitude. I love their whole fighting style, and they stay humble during the whole thing too. They have an attitude without having an attitude.
The self-proclaimed West Coast. The self-proclaimed West Coast gangster, he doesn't give a shit about anything. He's a badass. So take me through that fight. Nate Diaz versus Anthony Pettis.
Well, Anthony Pettis is another interesting character. I mean, Showtime, I don't know if you guys seen the highlight reel, which will probably be played forever and ever and ever, when Showtime actually jumped off the fence and kicked the guy in the face and knocked him out. That's going to be on highlight reels forever. I mean, Showtime is a great fighter. Both of those guys are great fighters. The stand-up game, same thing. They were even. I think the whole way through the fight, they were pretty much even. Pettis is known he's got a harder striker than Diaz. Diaz has what I call rubber band arms. He throws punches out there, but there's really not much behind him, unless he wants to be accurate. Most of the time,
He's got the most iron chin in the UFC, though.
Yeah, I don't know, but they're warriors, man. They're warriors, and his punches, he just throws them in such volume, and they just wear a person down. But the stand up game, I thought was even. When they were in the clinch, Diaz with his dirty boxing, knees, elbows, definitely had that game. And when it went to the ground, you're not going to compete. Very few people can compete with Nate Diaz on the ground. So it kind of went exactly the way I thought it was going to go. And I'm glad to see that Nate got the win.
Yeah, I'm extremely happy about that as well. My favorite part of the fight personally was when Diaz was able to get him against the fence. When he got him against the fence, he really cut down Anthony Pettis' range of motion, the way he's able to throw those strikes and really cut down his strengths of the game. I thought that was a great strategic advantage that Nate was able to carve out for himself during that fight, and he ended up getting the win. Now, Abdullah, have you seen the reaction to what he said post fight? Have you seen those videos?
I didn't, and by the smile on both of your faces, I'm very interested.
Okay, well, we will take it away from here, and then we'll get your live reaction then. Because after the fight, Joe Rogan goes up to him and says, hey, obviously paraphrasing here, hey, we haven't seen you in a long time. It's been 3 years since your last fight, and obviously that was against Conor McGregor.
Yes.
And we haven't seen you in 3 years. Why have you been away for so long? Are you back to stay? And Dad, what did he say?
Well, basically, he said, I haven't fought for 3 years because there was nobody worth fighting.
Bold statement. Okay.
Basically, he said nobody was good enough, nobody was worth his time, and he didn't see a reason to come back because nobody was worth it. And he said it with the most swaggering bad boy West Coast gangster attitude that he possibly could, while also, mumbling everything he says because he's had about 7,000 concussions in his career, and he talks.
I think it's the weed. All the weed they smoke, man. I mean,
to quote Stephen A., stay off the damn weed.
So also in that post-game interview, Joe Rogan asked, hey, who do you want to fight next? And he said, the only person worth fighting in my division right now is the only other gangster I see in the locker room, and he pointed towards Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal is the guy in the last UFC 240, I believe it was, that he had the fastest UFC knockout in recorded history, where he ran in and flying kneed that dude right in the face.
And he said, can't forget that one.
And Nate Diaz said that he's a gangster, no doubt, but he's an East Coast gangster. He doesn't have anything. He can't mess with us West Coast gangsters over here. And then threw up the W, and that was the end. That was the end of that interview. So my question to the both of you, and I'm going to start with Abdullah, would you rather see Diaz Masvidal, obviously both coming off a win, both coming off a hot streak, or would you like to see the possibility of Diaz McGregor 3?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that very, very aggressively, and I'm going to say I do not care for McGregor 3 with Nate Diaz. The reason why I don't care is I've just lost interest personally. They've had their feuds, grudges, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if you guys heard this story. So this happened about 2 weeks ago. Conor McGregor, he has his own whiskey, which I'm not going to promote the name because I'm very upset at what he did. But he has his own Irish whiskey. He's at a pub. I don't know if he owns it or not, but he went there. He goes in there. I want to give shots to everybody of his liquor, okay? About 15, 20 shots. There's an older gentleman in there on a bar stool. He's like, I don't want any of that. No disrespect to you. I'm already messed up. You can search the video up. Conor literally punches the old man in the face. I don't know why.
Straight up, Dad. He does.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
straight up. Leans over.
And hold on. But the saddest part about that video is not that he punched the guy in the face, is that the guy just ate it. The guy ate it. The guy was at the bar stool. He was like, okay.
What are you gonna do? We've seen from Conor McGregor's past off the octagon, if you will, issues, that he's not afraid to fight you. He's not afraid to throw your phone and break your phone. He's not afraid to get in public intoxicated issues. What is that guy going to do? A 68-year-old man? Yeah, okay.
Look. Now I'm not saying I blame the old man for sitting there, because now you got a lawsuit on your hand. Now that Floyd money is going to be some of that old man's money. So based off of that right there, I honestly just lost a lot of respect for him. If it is McGregor 3, I want Nate to fuck him up. If you're listening to this, beat his fucking ass. That's it.
I didn't know that about Conor, but listen, Conor's an interesting character. His personality. He started taking on a personality in the UFC, which brings in the money, brings in the fight, brings in the interest. Absolutely. I think he's starting to go a little mental and believe the personality that he's portraying. So what I would like to have seen is that 68-year-old guy get up and kick his ass.
Oh, absolutely.
But listen, either way, he does have interesting fights. He's an interesting character, and he brings attention to the sport. And unfortunately, it's bad attention now. Yeah. I mean, but listen, his last UFC fight, he got dominated. He got, he looked like a little kid,
right,
being thrown around in the last fight.
So what would you rather see, Diaz Masvidal or Diaz McGregor 3?
I mean, the first one I would definitely like to see because they are two warriors. I mean, the other guy's a journeyman. He's been there for a long time, ups and downs. The fact that Nate's excited about the fight means it's going to be an interesting fight no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as the trilogy, there has to be a closure. I'd like to see it because you have 1 and 1. Yeah. I'd like to see somebody get the 2,
Yeah, I completely understand that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of guys that have this persona that shows off character issue, there has been some rumors circulating since the last UFC has ended that there's been some trash talk going on between John Bones Jones, arguably the greatest UFC fighter ever if he could stay off the cocaine.
There you go.
And Brock Lesnar, one of the biggest UFC fighters ever, but that's because he's on steroids. So, what's your reaction to that? From what I've heard last I heard of it, they were talking shit back and forth to each other, but it really sounds like it's going to happen.
Well, if both of them can get off the suspensions, I mean, Brock Lesnar got suspended his last fight against Mark Hunt because drug tested positive. And Jones, this is his third suspension for steroids.
I feel like it's been more than that, but I mean, he, in my opinion, is the greatest UFC fighter to never fight.
Give him some more credit than that.
I mean, he's fought a couple times, and every time he's fought, he's been absolutely dominant. And I've never, ever in my life seen anything like John Bones Jones. However, every time you turn around, he has a fight, kicks the dude's ass, test positive for cocaine, test positive for PED, test positive for beating the shit out of his whoever. I mean,
well, maybe the winner of this fight can get a bag. I don't know. I don't know. Listen, I had a problem with Brock Lesnar even being in the UFC. From the very beginning, when he came into the UFC, they threw him right to the top of the ranks in a title fight against Frank Mir, and it bothered me. It bothered me that this guy, I mean, he's a talented big guy. He's strong, and he comes from a wrestling background, or legitimate, not the WWE or WWF, what you want to call it. He comes from a legitimate.
That was awesome, too.
Yes, it was. But I don't know. I think Jones would mop the floor with him, man. I think Jones would beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I'm 100% in favor of John Jones. And I have to say, Brock Lesnar, I'm just full of puns today. Brock Lesnar is the most muscular fucking sloppy Joe piece of shit I've ever seen. And that's just what it is. But John Jones is my guy. So yeah, I think John Jones.
Well, I don't like Jones or Lesnar's attitude, so I wouldn't be upset if either one got their ass kicked, to be honest with you.
Here's what I want, and I'm gonna leave it at this. I want both guys to go in, not be drug tested, get doped up on whatever amphetamines, whatever they need, as amount of steroids they want, and just let them slug it the hell out. No title fight. Well, obviously it wouldn't be a title fight, but just let them slug it the hell out. And let them be all doped up and see what happens.
Well, my money would not be on which fighter was going to win. It was going to be which fighter is going to end up suspended.
Yeah, I put my money there too.
All right, Dad, is there anything else that you want to say to end out the UFC segment? I don't know if you're going to stay around for our next segment or if you're gonna hop off here.
I'm going to hop off. I'm done talking to you guys.
All right.
Well,
we really do.
You too.
We really do appreciate having you on here. I think it went amazing, and we'll definitely have
hell
you
yeah.
back on to talk about UFC, to talk about life, a funny story, anything like that, or if you just want to listen to us banter.
If you want to talk about why your beard is so luscious, well, I'll entertain that too.
I can show you how to grow it.
Going a little bit.
Nah, that's not a beard, man. That's a starter kit.
Starter kit. Then what's Hunter? Hunter's got like a mole rat. Like
Hunter ain't even gone to the store to buy the kit yet.
I can't even afford the kit. All right, Dad. Thank you. I thank you so much. I had a great time.
All right, boys. Have a good night.
Yes, sir. You too.
So we're gonna now go on to the next segment of the show with our next special co-host. It's gonna be two. I'm gonna invite one, and Abdullah's gonna invite the other one, and hopefully this goes smoothly. I don't know if it'll work as well as my dad's segment did, but I'm inviting one of them now.
I'm inviting the other one also.
So how do you think that went, Abdullah? I mean, my dad's pretty well versed on all that stuff, isn't he?
Man, the dude's a walking like encyclopedia. That's crazy. I did not know about any of the history. So that's good.
I've heard all those stories my entire life, and it's been fantastic. Hey, Addy, what's going on?
Hey, there we go.
How you guys doing?
There's the other one.
We good. Glad you guys are on the show, man. Been talking about it for a while, and we finally made it happen.
Thank you for allowing me to join.
For everybody listening at home, and for everybody who doesn't know who you guys are, please give your Cunningham introductions.
All right. Well, I'll go first because I was born first. If y'all don't know me, but I'm gonna introduce y'all to me. Okay. I'm just ready to get the show started.
All right. Who's next?
Miles, take it away.
One, Addison, go fuck yourself for that comment. And two, my name is Miles. I'm a good friend of Abdullah and Hunter. And
more like a brother. More like a brother.
Oh,
Let's
yeah,
be real.
brothers.
Yeah. Brothers.
They're like our two younger brothers.
Yeah, obviously we're all biologically related.
Yes.
So we're gonna just jump right in it. I'm gonna start with Miles. I want to hear first your reaction to the news of DeMarcus Cousins tearing his ACL out before he was even to begin to start with the Lakers, and hear your original thoughts when that came across your news feed.
I think he was a little bit too eager to get back into the game.
Yeah,
it's a loss for basketball because healthy, DeMarcus Cousins is the best center in the league.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hands down. Him getting injured takes a real blow for the Lakers, which I think that they needed to pass the Clippers. So now they're gonna have to look elsewhere for a big man.
Yeah. Well, we are actually we're gonna get into that. That there have been reported with a couple of the people that they're scheduling to work out to be his replacement. So some of the people that the Lakers have reached out to include Dwight Howard, Joakim Noah, Maurice Spates, and Marcin Gortat. I want to get Addy's reactions to that list of names. Obviously, that is a big step back from DeMarcus Cousins. However, they do have a giant hole to fill now. So what direction do you think they should go, Addy? And what do you think about that list of names?
Well, that list of names sounds old. Very old.
It is.
Named off are old players that are mostly back to the basket, which is not the league nowadays. Need 3-point shooters nowadays because teams are out here getting 3-point shooters like centers. So all four of those names that you have mentioned off.
Most space can shoot the three.
The best center, I would say, would be Dwight Howard out of them all. But on the other hand, Dwight Howard is very injury prone. He only played 9 games last year.
Yeah, because he sprained his butt.
The year before that, he ain't played as much. I would say if we were talking about the Magic days, Dwight Howard, oh my God, no question about it. But nowadays, none of those guys, frankly, are going to replace DeMarcus. DeMarcus.
Hey, and Addison, I actually want to throw something out there that's a fact. So I agree with you 100%. Dwight is, the whole list is old. Combined, all their ages probably goes up to like 175.
So the age of one Todd Gibson?
Basically, hey, Tyrese Gibson, he's a lot better than people give him credit for. But anyway, an interesting fact is Dwight Howard at his last contract, which was $10 million, 2 years with the Wizards, he was the 27th highest paid center in the league, which, in my opinion, that's very low number for that. So it's just kind of odd how that worked out.
How he's the 27th out of like all the centers in the league.
Yeah, for that little bit of money.
I'm not surprised that he's.
I'm not surprised either. We've seen, now to touch on both of your guys' points, we've seen the best and the worst of Dwight Howard, and who knows what we're going to get going forward. Me personally, when he was released by the Wizards, I thought that was the end. I thought we had seen the rise and the fall of Dwight Howard, and he, for lack of a better term, and because I want to use it again, he's been the butt of people's jokes for quite some time now. However, you had touched on you had touched on the fact that, Dwight Howard is the best out of all of them, Addy. But we all remember how that went the last time when it was almost a prime time Dwight Howard on the Lakers. That didn't end up too well.
Well, I mean, also you got to remember Kobe Bryant was on that team. Kobe Bryant said, "I'm going to take the ball and you're going to sit behind me." Dwight Howard,
he called him soft.
Called him soft. Exactly.
But
a lot of problems.
Dwight averaged a double-double that year, so let's not discredit him. 17 points and 12 rebounds. Let's not discredit him. He still did well that Lakers year in 2012.
Well,
fair, but that was 8. Go ahead, Addy. We didn't hear you.
Sorry, he still did well, even though he was second choice, because he's always been first choice before then. You remember he had back seat behind Kobe Bryant. Now we know Kobe Bryant ain't letting nobody get ahead of him besides Shaq.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Personally, to me, they should have led with Dwight. Dwight was 26 years old at the time. He was coming off an astounding year. Kobe Bryant was 34 years old at that time.
Mm-hmm. I think what everybody wanted,
a 34-year-old over a 26-year-old, which stunted them, which led to them not making the playoffs for 6 years now?
Correct. And I think what led to that was, I think everybody in the Lakers organization made that trade because they wanted Dwight Howard to take control of that team. They knew Kobe wasn't the same Kobe, but Kobe got into the Lakers' way, he stepped on everybody's feet, and really, I think Kobe is the one that wrecked Dwight's confidence going forward. Now, obviously, he's had injuries, he's had bad shoulders, and he's had a bad back, and now everything is starting to break down, but I think that really did a number to his confidence. I mean, Kobe going at you every single day, every practice, every game, telling you you're not good enough, telling you you're soft. That's going to wear and tear on some people that aren't as mentally strong as others, especially mentally strong as Kobe.
Yeah. Now I do want to throw out there the other names because we're kind of stuck on Dwight Howard. Marcin Gortat, also on the Wizards, a good center. I mean, not really much of the offensive guy, more of the pick and roll type action. From what I see, more willing to pass the ball. Out of all those names, and I do agree with what Addy said first, this league is definitely evolved. It's not about, it's not the Kareem era. It's not that era where your back is to the basket for 15 seconds of the shot clock. It's not working like that anymore. So Maurice Bates, he can shoot the three, but he hasn't been in the league for, a year, almost 2 seasons. So I'm just interested to see if he's still in any sort of shape. This isn't the 2016 Maurice Bates where you're on the Warriors shooting mid-ranges and threes with free range to move and stuff. So out of all of them, I would say Joakim Noah would be the best fit for the Lakers, just as far as him being more of he's a role player. Just he's ready to take 12, 15 minutes a game. He's not going to ask for any more than that.
Well, let me say this about Joakim Noah, and this is the last we're going to say on this subject because we need to move on. Fuck Joakim Noah, okay? As a Knicks fan,
what the fuck type of shit is that, bro?
That's a salty Knicks fan.
That dude took $72 million from us and played in, I believe,
and how much money
games.
did Penny Hardaway take from you guys? Are you mad at Penny Hardaway too?
To be honest, no, I'm not. I'm mad at Joakim Noah, okay?
You can't be mad at somebody like that because your team was going to be ass regardless.
Yeah. Joakim dominated with Chicago and the Florida Gators.
Yeah, Chicago. I appreciate him.
Yeah, well, I don't
very hard to play
appreciate it.
team.
I don't appreciate it at all. Moving on. We've seen a shift in the NBA this offseason. Me and Abdullah have touched on it before. Possibly one of the biggest shifts that have happened, the Golden State Warriors. They lost the key piece, a couple key pieces actually, but the key piece of Kevin Durant. Obviously, he went down with that injury, but then he also decided to go with the Brooklyn Nets. They also traded away Andre Iguodala. On the opposite side of that, they were able to sign the former Brooklyn Net, D'Angelo Russell. So my question for all of you, starting with Miles, are the Warriors a title contender this year? Now, remember, Klay Thompson's out, tore his ACL. So you've got Curry, who is fantastic. He's great. He's one of the all-time greats, but he's got that ankle issue. And they've got D'Angelo Russell. So starting with Miles, are they a title contender this season?
Depending on if Clay can come back around January, February, because remember, he hit those 2 free throws before he left. He was looking okay. But if he can come back and, really play, yes. Because when you talk about the new league, you talk about all the duos in the league. And people are saying, where's Steph and Clay? To me personally, Steph and Clay are still the number one duo because out of all the duos in the league, they're the only duos that have championships together. So their chemistry is top notch. They have Draymond still there who could do what he can do. They added D'Angelo Russell. Now, I seen D'Angelo Russell play in person when I went to go see the Nets game. That kid is a stud. He's a young stud. And he's only about 23, 24 years old.
I believe he's 24.
Yeah.
24. So him playing with Curry, the best point guard in the game, and his shot is already there, so he's going to develop. And then they went, Abdul, we talked about this a little bit later. We talked about this before. They went and got Willie Cauley-Stein.
Man,
young center.
I just looked at his stats, man. That's exactly what I was going to bring up.
So he could play defense. And then they re-signed that one young kid. He could have went somewhere else. Kevin Looney.
Oh, Looney, yeah.
They re-signed him. So they kept their young core. And they still have Steve Kerr there. So
yeah, that's true.
Listen, and Steph is a 2-time MVP, first ever unanimous MVP.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that they can go to they're still a title contender until someone knocks them off.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a tough West. So we'll just have to see. Should be some interesting basketball.
So going off of that, Addy, you're the Brooklyn Nets fan. We see you flashing the jersey. We all know it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about losing? So we're going to get into the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving thing later, soon. How do you feel off of losing D'Angelo Russell, the star of your team, the reason why you went to the playoffs, the best player you guys have had in years? How do you feel about that?
Well, I was a little upset losing them. But when we got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, I was like, oh, okay. It's like we got rid of a superstar, but we got 2. But we got a young D'Angelo Russell is going to be a very, very, very good star in the league. I wish we could have kept him, had 3, but we just couldn't pay the contract out like that. Frankly, I hope he does very well with Golden State. I think he is going to do very well. I mean, he led Brooklyn to a playoffs, and the Nets ain't made the playoffs in maybe about 4 or 5 years since D. Will and Kevin Durant,
right? Brooke Lopez.
Mm-hmm. So I was upset, but I'm pretty excited how the Nets turned out. Though he was the forefront for us. I'm sad to see him go, but
maybe better things on the horizon, but maybe not. We'll see how Durant recovers. We'll see how Kyrie is able to lead this team, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Right now, I want to switch up. I want to get the debate going a little bit, get the energy up in here. Rapid fire. Is Dak Prescott terrible?
No.
He's not terrible, but he is average.
No.
He is surrounded by a lot of talent. If you look at his team, he has an above-average offensive line. He's had a veteran tight end in Jason Witten. He has a superstar to hand the ball off to in Ezekiel Elliott, and he has a budding star in Amari Cooper right now. Is Dak Prescott worth the $40 million that he's asking for? Absolutely not.
No.
He was lucky to get 30. I understand he wants to get paid, but when you take that much money, what about the stars around you? They just re-signed Jalen, the linebacker, on their
Well,
team.
before we get into that, I see Addie's got a little bit of a disagreement on what you're saying. Now, I completely agree with you. I think
Yeah.
Dak is barely an average quarterback. I think it's all about the pieces he's had surrounded around him, and I think that Ezekiel Elliott has really taken a toll off of him in the backfield. But I see Addie disagrees with what you say completely. Addie, do you think he's a great quarterback? Do you think he's worth all that money?
I think he is definitely worth over a 30 mil. Definitely. He brought the Cowboys from the Tony Romo era where they weren't doing shit, and now they're actually a winning contender. They have been topping the teams that they've been in the East for the last 3 years since he's been on the team. Remember, he got drafted in the 3rd round, 4th round, and the brother started
Yeah, that's true.
and led the team to winning seasons. Now you're saying he got pieces and all this extra stuff, but he's been gelling with those pieces. He's actually made those pieces better. I don't know what you mean by, a quarterback is a leader, and that's what he is.
He didn't make those pieces better. First of all, Ezekiel Elliott will be fine no matter who his quarterback is, because just give him the ball. And that's exactly what the Dallas Cowboys have been doing for years. Second of all, before Amari Cooper got there at the end of last season, Dak Prescott was throwing it to every single defense in the league.
Oh, yeah?
Exactly.
You said last year, correct?
Yeah, last season. They traded for Amari Cooper.
He only had 13 interceptions last year, but he's throwing it to everybody, correct?
Yeah,
The year
13.
before, 13, bro. 13 interceptions was his most. Then before that, it was 4. Then before that, it was 8. So what are we talking about? Him throwing?
Of course, it could be 4 when you just hand the ball off. Ezekiel Elliott is getting like 300 touches a year.
Exactly, 300 touches a year. Not to mention in those first
taking
two.
A toll.
And that should tell you something. Life. Even though he has limited attempts in his throws, he's still making the right throws. He's still making touchdown throws. He's still leading the squad down the field so Ezekiel can make those 1-yard, 2-yard touchdowns. Because we know when he gets in the goal line era, there's no way.
1-yard, 2-yard touchdowns.
He has a top 3 defense in the league.
We talk about Tom Brady. Tom Brady had a top defense.
First of all, Tom Brady. All right, let's do the Tom Brady thing. If you were to take Dak Prescott and put him on the worst team in the league, could he bring that team to the playoffs?
What's the worst team in the league?
All right, we're just going to use an example. If you were to put him on the Miami Dolphins right now, put him on the Miami Dolphins right now, can Dak repeat what he did? Hold on, because he'll be running for his life because the offensive line, for one, is not up there. No offense, but Amari Cooper is way better than Kenny Stills. And the running back by committee is not going to bail him out.
How many sacks?
And the defense, the Dolphins' defense is not going to bail him out like the Cowboys' defense does.
Let Addy say what he's got to say, because he needs to say what he's got to say because it cuts out when other people talk over him. So go ahead, Addy.
How many sacks did the Cowboys give up last year?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
56. Now, impressive. I don't know about you guys, but getting hit 56 times, that's not even hit, when he threw the ball. That's just sacks. That's a lot of hits right there, baby.
You're right, but that offensive line also led Ezekiel Elliott, who missed a few games, to running for the most yards in the league. So
he's had a security blanket. Exactly. He's had a security blanket for the last couple of years, and it's been in 2 different forms, right? So last year, before he got Amari Cooper, he was awful. That team was awful. They weren't doing anything great. He threw those 13 interceptions. I'm sure it was a little less than 13 because there was still half a season to go. But here's the difference. Here's the difference. You were talking about a couple years earlier where he had 4 interceptions. He only had a couple interceptions before that. He was throwing to Dez Bryant. Now, Dez Bryant was not the same Dez Bryant. No, he was not the same Dez Bryant that he used to be, but he's still. You're wrong. You're wrong. Not to mention there was a younger Cole Beasley. He had weapons. Last year, when you saw him not have weapons, what did he do?
He sucked. The same amount of touchdowns.
He sucked until they traded for Amari Cooper. After that, and you've got absolutely correct. When they traded for Amari Cooper, he was on fire. He was unstoppable. He was great. But the Dallas Cowboys are playing some games with this money going on now. So they're talking about not paying Ezekiel Elliott. With him not having that security blanket of being able to hand the ball or throw a dink-dunk pass to Ezekiel Elliott, I think we're really going to see the true colors of Dak Prescott.
We've been seeing the true colors for the last 3 years.
No, we haven't. One, if Dak Prescott wants the $40 million a year, when you pay players like that, you're gonna lose players. For example, the Seahawks, they paid Russell that. Of course, they could pay Russell that. The Legion of Doom is gone, so the money isn't really going around like that. So what happens in a couple years when those offensive linemen or some of those defensive players' contracts come up? Now that you're paying Dak that much money, you can't pay everyone else. That's why Tom Brady has stayed on top for so many years, because it takes a team effort. It takes a good individual to take pay cuts so that the team can win together.
Now,
and if Dak wants to get that, he will lose by himself.
I want to throw something in there. I want to throw something in there, Hunter, because you seem to disagree with me about the Dez Bryant thing. So what I'm going to do is something a little different. I'm not even going to talk about Dez Bryant. I'm going to talk about you. You have a Jets shirt on, okay?
Yeah.
You have a Jets hat on, okay?
Yeah.
Now, you're a Jets fan, correct?
Yeah.
You guys got Le'Veon Bell now. You guys have actually quite a few pieces. I'm not hating on you. Tell me when's the last time that you won 10 games?
2010. 2010. No. Actually, I believe we won 10. Hold on. I believe we won 10 games the year that the first year Ryan Fitzpatrick was our quarterback, but we didn't make the playoffs. I could be wrong, but we were close to 10 wins that year because I remember we had a play-in game. If we beat Buffalo, we were in the playoffs. And, of course, Fitzpatrick threw an interception in the end zone the last drive of the game, and we lost.
2015, you were 10-6. So you were right on the money.
Oh,
do you remember what your record was last year and the year before that?
4-12 and 3-13.
4-12 and 5-11. You were close. Until you can get 10 wins consecutively, I don't want to hear what you got to say about football. Okay?
Just because I root for a shitty team doesn't mean I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
The worst team in New York, right behind the fucking Bills and the damn Giants.
We're talking about teams, huh?
Sad.
How about we talk about your team, Madison? How about we talk about how many playoff appearances, how many championships you lack thereof in Miami?
How many championships do the Giants have? 3?
All that matters is that the Dolphins are actually going to be the worst fucking team in the league this year. They've got nobody.
Which I disagree with. I think the Titans or the Buccaneers, I think, would be the worst team. But hey,
Dolphins got
the Cardinals by far.
Coach that came from New England's defense. As we recall, New England has won championships how many times?
Yeah. And the leader of that defense from all those great years was Matt Patricia, and those Lions teams looked fucking awesome last year, right? That was sarcasm if you didn't know.
You didn't just hear what I just said. I said the defense, our coach now, that came from the Patriots, just won the championship. Okay, who on your team has a championship, Hunt?
I mean, I'm sure
no
there's some
players. No players, nothing.
You got Sam Darnold and Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is better than anybody on your team.
Okay, well, we'll see about that when 11 balls is to the hat. I mean, 11 hats to the ball. My fault. Let's see. Not one man can break everybody, you know. So
you're in a bad situation when your quarterback battle, you don't know who's going to start week 1, is between the 38-year-old journeyman and the 23-year-old giant-nosed quarterback.
When Ryan Fitzpatrick played on your team, he almost made them to the playoffs. Now, no offense.
Yeah, that was 5 years ago. 4 years ago.
What, 2 years ago? He tore it up with Tampa Bay?
It doesn't mean for 3 games, and Tampa Bay wasn't very good last year.
But he still tore it up with a team. Now, if he can take your trash ass team almost to the playoffs, certainly the Dolphins have been better than your team for the last 5, 4, 6 years.
If the Dolphins
by
can get
a game
5
or 2
wins this year, I'll be
not by a game or 2. Not by a game or 2.
I'm predicting
your team was even 8-8. When was that? One
We'll
thing
We
see.
just went. We just
have
went
been
2015.
Hold
We
on.
talked about 2015.
I'll predict all of our teams' records right now. Addison, your team was a smooth 13-3 and 13. Hunter,
100% agree. 100% agree. That's
Hunter,
exactly what
your
I was going to
team,
say.
Hunter, your team is your team.
9-7.
9 you're pushing it. Maybe 7-9 at best.
first.
5-11.
7-9. Yeah.
Abdullah, your team 9-7 or 8-8.
For context,
I'd go for 9-7.
for
The
context,
Giants,
his team
the
is the
Giants?
Steelers.
Oh,
3-13.
no,
Just like
I see my team getting 5 wins.
That's an honest opinion though. That's good.
Yeah,
Five
from
wins.
the
They got
Giants
to
fan,
work
I
on
would.
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so we're all starting to talk over each other here, which I knew was going to happen, but that's all right. From the Giants fan, I would like to get actually your opinion of what's happened to the Giants this offseason. They really blew it up, man. They traded one of the best wide receiver, if not the best wide receiver in the league, definitely one of the biggest stars in the league in Odell Beckham. They've seemed to blow up the ship and kind of restart. What are your reactions as a Giants fan?
I was pretty upset when we traded Odell after giving him the big contract, and then we just let Landon Collins walk away for nothing. And you could at least franchise tag him and traded him to get something, but to let him go to a division rival for nothing, I see. But Gettleman did work on the O line, who ain't got Kevin Zeiter. That's a big piece right there. We'll see. I mean, we have some bright spots. Evan Ingram came back. He's looking healthy again. We have Saquon. The kid Daniel Jones at first, I was pretty upset, but after watching him, he really knows the game. He's improving every year. I don't expect him to take Eli's job around week 9 or 10.
So let me segment this real quick. So last episode, me and Hunter spoke about top 3 wide receivers in the league. And let me tell you, I almost puked in my fucking mouth when I heard Hunter's list. Okay. So Addison.
I do want to make a quick change. I do want to make a
No. Wait. I just want to bring this out and you can say, Addison, I want to know your top 3 first, and then Miles, I want to know your top 3.
Okay.
The top 3?
Yes.
Well, my number 1 gotta be Julio Jones. That man, there's nobody in the world that can stop him one-on-one. That includes the best cornerbacks.
Let me just say one thing because that goes off of my change. Now, last week, my number 2 out of my top 3 was Julio Jones, and I do want to change that, and here's why. Julio Jones is an amazing wide receiver. He's got all the gifts. He's got everything. After last season, he went a really long time without scoring a touchdown. A really long time. If you guys remember back to that, he had went almost a calendar year without recording a touchdown. I do want to take him out of
quarterback's fault.
Yes, but I do want to take him out of my top 2 because we forgot last week, me and Abdullah both forgot arguably one of the best receivers in the league as well. And I want to replace Julio Jones in my top 3 to DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay. That's respectable. So Addison, you said Julio Jones first, and who was the second and third?
First. Second would have to be Odell Beckham Jr. That brother right there can take the ball 99 yards off a screen pass and still score. Probably one of the best, if not one of the best people we have ever seen run after the catch.
Yep.
Then third, I would have to give it to this man. Unfortunately, I don't even know if he'll be playing this season. Antonio Brown. No one in the league can keep up with that young brother as well.
Yeah.
But DeAndre Hopkins, great dude, I'd like to say, but better than those 3? No.
Okay. Now, Miles, I would like to know your top 3.
All right. Like Hunter said with number 2, but I'm going to be a twist. I really gave it some thought, and after looking at the last 2 seasons, that boy DeAndre Hopkins is the number 1 receiver, in my opinion, in the league. He does it year in and year out with the numbers, no matter who the quarterback is, matter if it's just Sean Watson or his backup. DeAndre Hopkins seems to make the big play for Houston when they need it most.
Okay, number 2.
Number 2, if healthy, Odell Beckham because there's no one else in the league that could take a slant the way he can.
Okay,
Now,
and
number 3 is
Yep.
a tie. It's a tie between Antonio Brown, who is amazing. He runs the routes, cuts everybody up. We're going to have to see what he can do without Big Ben. But the tie is with Mike Evans, who, just like DeAndre Hopkins,
A sleeper.
no matter
sure.
the quarterback, Mike Evans seems to still put up big numbers, even though he's on a trash team.
Now, the reason why I segmented that way is because
Hold on. I'm ready for the fight. I'm ready for the fight. Ding,
there you
ding.
go. There you go. So I segmented that way because I noticed that everybody's list had Antonio Brown in it except for Hunter Jackson. So I just want to be the first one to say on this show with guests present, you're a fucking scrub and you're a fucking hater, okay? Now, one thing that I do agree with that Hunter Jackson said was that he said his number, the number
Let me
3.
say.
Okay, go ahead. His number 3 pick was.
If you guys didn't watch last week, my number 3 pick, and the reason why Antonio Brown was not in my list, and well, there was another reason too, and I'll get into it. The number 3 pick for the top 3 wide receivers in the league is any white junior college quarterback, former lacrosse player that Bill Belichick turns from a quarterback to a wide receiver next year.
Stop it.
Hey, that's
Stop
Julian. That's Edelman. That's
it.
Hogan. You know that's
Stop it.
That's actually valid, man.
The best wide receiver in the league plays in Minnesota.
Fair, but you're missing the joke here, obviously. Every play went over your big head, but
Oh, we have jokes. Go under your big nose.
fucking Mr. Potato Head looking motherfucker.
Okay.
Oh.
Looking like
Sniffed a lot of coke with that nose, huh?
looking like a retired Terrell Suggs in the background.
Oh.
But every postseason, Bill Belichick makes this no-named former college quarterback a wide receiver who scores the game-winning touchdown, the game-winning drive, makes that big catch. So that was why I went with him instead of Antonio Brown. Now,
no, your real reason was because you said this motherfucker had a blue beard. That's why you didn't go with him. What type of shit is that, everybody? Please, somebody.
Because he has a blue beard?
No, I did.
Brown is not stronger than Antonio Brown. I don't think he's not even bigger than Antonio Brown. Julian Edelman he's nice, but that brother a mediocre player too.
He's a system player.
I wasn't saying Julian Edelman, guys. I was saying whatever random white quarterback Belichick turns into a wide receiver. He's no name. He's fake. He's fictitious. That was the joke. So thank you for beating it into the fucking ground. However,
85 to 80%, 75% league is African American. You might get 2, 3, 4 white boys, that's putting in the work, but not at wide receiver. I'm sorry, not at wide receiver.
The reason why Antonio Brown is not in my top 3 is because I think he got hit so hard that his bell got rung to the point where all this off the field stuff and all this crazy shit he's saying, all that has happened after that Vontaze Burfict hit. Now, I did say he had a blue mustache, and I was wrong. He had a blonde mustache. So he's just been crazy ever since then, and I think he's still incredibly talented. Obviously, that was that issue this offseason where he's getting into this ridiculousness of this football helmet where give me a fucking break, first of all. Just put on a fucking helmet and play.
That's not ridiculous.
Second of all, obviously he's got this issue. Obviously, he's got this issue with his feet. But the reason why I'm not putting him in the top 3 is I don't know how much longer he's going to play in the NFL. I don't know if he's going to play a full season this year because he's always threatening to retire. He's messed up in the head now, and I just don't think he's reliable.
So what I notice again with Hunter is he likes to. I'm not going to curse. It's so hard not to with you, bro. You like to go off the narrative sometimes. We didn't ask, what do you feel the top 3 are going to be after this season? We just said who's top 3 right now, and you didn't put Antonio Brown in because you think he got his bell rung. I don't understand.
I mean, I think if we're
issues is why you didn't put him on.
I mean, if we're gonna go off of that right now, then he's not because he's not fucking playing. So
How do you know that? Season hasn't even started yet.
Well, right now he's not playing, and you asked me today.
Well, we're in the preseason. He's not going to play.
Wow.
As
That's Hunter's rebuttal. Okay. Okay.
Ours don't play in the preseason.
Listen, somebody's got to say the controversial shit, and I'll just make it me. That's fine. But we are out of time here today, guys. So I want to personally thank each and every one of you guys. Shout out to my dad for going on earlier. He did a great job in the UFC segment. I know you guys will listen to it later, and it was fantastic. I thought today was a great show. So I want to thank you each individually. Abdullah, as always, man, did a great job. Addy, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely bring you back.
Thank you.
Miles, thank you so much too, man. We'll definitely bring you guys back.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right, that's going to signify the end of the show. This has been the Jackson and Shabazz Show. I'm Hunter Jackson, along with my friend and co-host, Abdullah Shabazz. Have a good night, everybody.
All right.
All right.